Awesome, you guys. Thank you for joining us tonight, Monday night team call. And if you're joining us for the recording, I'm so glad that you took time to watch this. And I personally think that this specific interview is one that you're going to want to share with a lot of your friends. I love Cameron's story. I love her heart and just her ability to be able to have this kind of freedom. So I know that this is going to be an amazing tool that will help you help others unlock whatever they've got going on in their dreams in their life. So we have Cameron Biafore on today, and you guys, she is 26 now, and I'm so excited for you to hear her story for when she did start Isogenics. But she is living in Bali currently right now. She's from America. She is a Team Isogenics, Miss Bikini Universe and America and Australia, I think, if I'm correct. Start Ambassador, Start 1000. She has an international team, a huge international team. She's 4-star Golden Circle, 2-star Crystal Executive, and she's on a major mission to serve young people all over the world to dream bigger and create more freedom in their life. And I love Cameron because she's so open to share really anything. So what I want you to do while you're listening to her share her story, if you have any questions at all, go ahead and type them in the chat so we can ask them later. But Cameron, I would love for you to just share like how you got started, this whole journey, this crazy wild ride. Tell us how it got going, and then I'll ask you some more questions in a little bit.
Yeah, of course, and thank you for that intro. And I apologize if my dogs are barking in the background. But yeah, so I'm 26 now. I started Isogenics when I was 23, but it actually took me a few years to even be open to the idea of this, because you just don't know what you don't know. I didn't know really, I wasn't educated around what Isogenics could be for me. I just knew what it was, not how or why it could impact my life. So it all began, back in 2015, actually, this entire journey when my student loan wouldn't fund my senior year of college. And this really broke my heart because I had this massive vision of climbing the corporate ladder, being a president of a company, doing all those things. Doing all those things. And I felt like that rug was swept right under my feet whenever I couldn't get that degree. And, couldn't you agree, in the States, you kind of need that to have a decent income. And I knew my worth was way more than a low income, like entry level job. So I waited for all my friends to finish graduating, and I took it upon myself to book a one-way ticket to Australia. And I don't know why I picked Australia, but there was a strong gravitational pull for me to do that. I always wanted to travel on my own. I always wanted to experience the world. So I just did it. And I still to this day can't believe I had the balls to do it. So I went over there with no plan, didn't know anyone. I met my roommates online. I planned it all online before going, and that's still 2015 is still all before, online roommates and all of that. So I remember my parents being like, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, "I'm sure." Anyway, I go over there with pretty much the entire notion of finding what I'm passionate about, finding my purpose, learning about the world, learning about myself, and what I actually want to do in the world. Because at 22 years old, you really have no idea. And I felt there was so much pressure to figure out what I wanted, and I had no idea. So I went, and I'll never forget the day that I walked into the house that I was moving into. We were all unpacking boxes, and there's a big giant Isogenics box on the kitchen counter. So if that's not a sign, I don't know what is. But I didn't take it as a sign, and I didn't start right away. So 2 weeks later, I met my all-time best friends, and they were also in Isogenics in the Start community, Start demographic, and they were introducing me to their friends, and all of a sudden I'm in this big giant community of young people who were energetic and inspired and had goals and visions and wanted success and wanted bigger things for their life. And for the first time ever, I felt celebrated for my individuality. I felt like I could share my voice, that people were respectful of one another. There weren't any cliques or anything, but I just felt loved in this community. And I wasn't even in Isogenics, just my friends were. So, I was really young, and I said no for about 2.5 years, or it just wasn't my time for about 2.5 years. I watched my friends do it. I knew the products worked. I watched them eat them every day. I had them, but it just wasn't my time. But then, fast forward that 2.5 years, I was finally open to getting educated around what it was, mainly because I had FOMO. I had FOMO that everybody else was making this extra income and traveling to when we go on group travel trips, they would continue traveling. I'd have to go back to work. And that's whenever I was like, all right, I don't like this. So I went to my first event, and that's where I saw the bigger picture and the vision of what this could be for me. Because at the end of the day, people have no idea, and nobody cares what it is. They care about what it's going to do for them, their life, and their future. So it's so important to vision cast, because I saw the vision there. And I got started, and I signed up. I was associate at the event, and then I got started, and I think I signed up 6 people that week. Didn't think anything of it. And then the following week, I went on a visa run to Thailand to renew my visa. And I share this part of my story just because of the gravity that it has with propelling me forward with this company. So I left to go on this visa run to renew my documents. And when I came back, immigration stopped me at the gates, pulled me aside, interrogated me for 3 hours, and ultimate decision was to deport me. And it was because, I was working more hours than I was allowed on my visa. But that's besides the point. The point is, they put me in a holding cell, and I only had $70 in my bank account. I was young, dumb, spent all my money partying in Thailand. I don't really have any financial support from family members, so I was screwed. And I'll never forget crying, just praying for an answer, and I get an email from Isagenix congratulating me on my very first commission check of $1,300. And I was like, okay, I think God is telling me that this is my calling. I'm assuming. So it was at that moment where I really decided, and if I wasn't getting like a supportive message from someone in my network saying that I was going to get through this, you were getting a message about me, about Isagenix. I was getting deported, and I was in that holding cell, and I was messaging people about Isagenix because I knew my future meant more to me than my current situation. And I think that's huge for people to really take in. Your future is more important than your current situation. And I'm always looking for the solution and the resolve in what's happening, because when we're actively looking for those things, then the universe is going to conspire to make it happen. So I was like, okay, well, if this can save me in this situation, emergency situation, I can only imagine what I could do for other people in terms of savings accounts, because we don't have them as millennials much anymore. An exit strategy after retirement, having more freedom, flexibility, and choice, being able to fund somebody's daycare or to put some kids in private school, whatever it was, I saw that this was an avenue for people in all ways to live a more relaxed life, removing the stress from people's lives. So I got to work straight away. And even though I was feeling pain, I knew that this was a gift that I needed to share with others because it saved my ass. So I ran with it. I ran real hard. And after about 10 months, I replaced my full-time income that I was working with Isagenix, and I pursued my passions in traveling. That's not everybody's passions, but it's mine. I have a heart to see the world. I have a heart that's everywhere else. So I moved to Mexico, and I was down there for 4 months, and it gave me the freedom and choice to be down there. I was all around the States. I was going to events, filling up my cup every couple of months with these events. Like, I will fly across the world to get to an Isagenix event. Every single year, twice a year, I fly from Asia to the States for an event. So anyway, it was really remarkable what I was able to create at 23 years old. Now I'm turning 24. And now I have this life of freedom that only people could ever dream of. And I made it my absolute mission to help other people get out of debt. And I focus on everybody else. I focus on who can I serve? Who can I share the product with? Who can I, help make an extra few $100s? And whenever I put my focus on everyone else, that's where things just started catapulting. So I've been able to live my life of travel. I chose Bali as a home base for now. It might change in the future, but it's just so incredible what you can do with this vehicle if you allow yourself to see it as a gift. And yes, it's going to be hard. Yes, it's going to take a lot of work, because any business, and traditional business or whatever, takes a lot of work. But if you take your work ethic that you put in at your 9-to-5 or your brick and mortar business and applied it to Isagenix, imagine what would happen. And I think that so often we treat this as an option rather than an exit strategy for your freedom. And if we applied the same mindset that we have to save our jobs that we don't like going to every single day, with the holiday, the 2-week holiday that we have to pay for, like, I think that's absurd. Isagenix sends us on trips like 4 times a year for free. That's what I'm talking about. Send me somewhere for free and reward me for my efforts in growing a business, right? That's how I see it. I think that makes more sense. So if we applied that same mindset, well, I'm fighting for my freedom, just like how we're fighting to keep our stability and our job and our paycheck. Imagine what you could create, and imagine how much faster you could build and how much more you could, inspire others to do the same.
Oh my gosh, you guys. Like, all of that story, if you're not lit up from hearing a second of that. I've taken so many notes, by the way. You've had so many one-liners. I've got to go back and I've got to just I'm going to quote you all day in my stories. I hope you guys are doing the same. Okay, so really quickly, I have questions for you.
Yeah.
And if you guys have any questions, post in the chat. But I specifically want to know, because you said that you went to work. I want to know, and I know people do want to know, I am going to be posting this video in the Start group. I think it'll really help. But what does that look like for you? What did work look like? I know you don't have kids, so, single, have dogs, whatever, but what did that look like and how much did you work? Can you bring us into that? And then also bring us into the verbiage and posture you had and what it all entailed.
Yes. And if you hear me straying or if I miss over everything, bring me back. So you've got to get resourceful. I think oftentimes we wait for people, our leaders or our sponsors, to give us everything that we need. I was resourceful. I looked at it as, how can I do this and how can I make it happen? So for me, the very first thing that I knew that I needed to do that I wasn't good at was create better habits. So time management, time blocking, I was working from 5 p.m. at night till 5 in the morning doing bottle service. Okay. And I would come home and I would be on my phone until I fell asleep with it at 7 a.m. until I woke up a few hours later and did it again. I was so fired up for my vision of freedom that I let that drive me every day. So first and foremost, to work, you need to know what you're working for. And if you don't have that pain point, you've got to create one. So let's say your life is all fine and dandy. You have to create a pain point. And how I do this is every single reset, I create a pain point for each rank. So for example, manager. If you're trying to go manager, you don't have a pain point. Remove something that's comfortable for you that you enjoy doing, like Netflix. Delete the Netflix account. Cancel the subscription. You don't get it back until you go manager again. So creating pain points was pushing me to the next rank or the next goal or helping the next person. So I sacrificed a lot. I got super freaking uncomfortable, and I still do. And even though that might not look like on social media, my entire life is sacrificing for the freedom that I have this vision for. But it's worth it. It's so worth it. So to be able to know what you're working for, you need to know what you're working for. So get clear on a goal and make it realistic. If you're a consultant and shooting for 3-star, chances are it's too big of a gap. Just focus on the next person you're enrolling. Who's the next person you're enrolling? So whenever I began building, I was reading every book. I read GoPro about 10 times, again and again and again, highlight, again and again and again, highlight, memorize. The Cake Recipe by Jackson Parr. The key here is repetition. It's an amazing habit to form. Repetition is the mother of all skill. So, if you listen to a team call once, chances are you're not going to retain it. We lose 85% of the information that we're taught. So you've got to memorize things. And I keep it simple. Don't get me wrong. I'm actually a lunatic behind the scenes, but keep it simple by just memorizing The Cake Recipe by Jackson Parr, and the verbiage and GoPro. I really don't stray off from that. So everything that that's come out of my mouth when hey, if I sent you a video, would you watch it? Hey, are you open? If I, would you? All of that I have memorized from the GoPro book, and it's stuff that I use every single day. So I really don't have this magical script, but I'm always going back to what I'm learning and relearning it. Because you'll get uninspired at some points, you'll get unmotivated at some points, you'll hit a wall at some points, and it's most likely just because you have to work the muscle in your brain. Remind yourself, why are you doing this? Remind yourself the skills. Remind yourself what you did before. I'm always going back to square one. How can I do this better? What worked for me then? What can I do now? So getting resourceful, taking it upon yourself. I'm always on YouTube watching other people's team calls, taking notes. I'm never not taking notes. Even if it's a skill that I think I've mastered, I'm still taking notes. You can't lead with your ego here. You really can't. So, memorizing the compensation plan. I was just memorizing everything, and ignorance on fire, because the best way that you're going to learn is through action. And my best advice is, I know that everyone feels fear. I feel it every day. But is it worth it feeling fear in something that's not even happened, that we made up in our head? But what if we removed that fear, that in that story that we made up, that's not even real, because it's not somebody else's thoughts, it's our thoughts. And we opened up our hearts to share the gift that could totally change and transform someone's life. I help people get out of complete debt because I had the courage to share it with them. And I think we really stop ourselves because of rejection. But we get rejected every day in life. Every day. Every day. At work, in life, with friends. You say, hey, you want to go to this restaurant with me? And the friend says, no, not tonight. That's a rejection. We experience rejection every single day. And I think we have this attachment of judgment. But what if you looked at it in a different perspective, where you're serving somebody, you're sharing a gift? I've enrolled people that I never in a million trillion years would use Isogenics. And it's because I had the courage to just talk to them. And I've had people that I remember scrolling past being like, oh no, like they wouldn't like this, they wouldn't want this. Those are the ones that join the business. Those are the ones that buy the product, the ones that you think in your head, the thoughts that you have, not their thoughts, right? So I'm always learning, always growing my mindset, always learning something about Isogenics, because at the end of the day, this is a business. How are you ever going to run a business if you're not learning the skills, learning the product, taking time to master the skills? It's not like I'm learning a trillion things. I master it one skill at a time. And when I wanted to be great at enrolling and closing, I looked up on YouTube how to be a master closer, how to close sales, how to end a conversation, how to guide a conversation, how NLP in closing, all these things, it's a skill. So you might not get all of those, tidbits in an Isogenics business website, but if you want to get good and master a skill, you've got to hone in on each individual skill. Master it. It takes time, and I think we don't give ourselves enough grace. We really don't. Like when people want to quit after 6 months, I think it's absolutely insane what they're giving. It's ridiculous, because it's like going to a job and be like, you know what? I don't know. I don't have any corporate experience. So like, forgive me for my ignorance. I don't know how to carbon copy an email and send it to Susan. Like, you know what I mean? Whatever it is. And so what work looked like for me is I would hear what another leader is doing, Meredith, for example, the verbiage she uses, and then I would mimic it, mirror. I would copy it. Oh, she said that, I'm gonna say that. Oh, she said that, I'm gonna say that. I've never let my ego get in the way as, oh, that works for her, but it wouldn't work for me. No, it worked for her because it works, So I was copying everyone. And I remember whenever I moved to Bali the first time with Chelsea Lauren, I wanted 3-star so bad. I was 2-star. I wanted 3-star more than anything in the whole wide world, and she was 3-star. At that point in time, I think it was 10 months into my business, I've never gotten on the phone. And I've never FaceTimed somebody. 10 months in my business, okay? I think I was like, 2-star. And I was scared to even show up on Instagram, to be seen. I was coming out of a really hard time, like transition in my life at that point. So I saw her every single morning on the phone and FaceTiming. So I started getting on the phone and FaceTiming. She would articulate, what a cleanse does. I would articulate what a cleanse does. I was just copying everything that she did. So find someone that you resonate with and just say what they say. That's how I learned, is by three-way calls, leveraging other people and just being a sponge. I have been joked upon that I am a robot, a walking, talking robot, because I will repeat what you said if I think that was good, what you said. You know, duplicate.
I love that. I think it's so huge, but your ego gets in your way. You're like, oh, I'm not gonna do a three-way call because it's weird. Like, I remember the girl who enrolled me was like, I want to get you on a three-way call. I was like, no, what the heck? But it wasn't until later, I was like, let me do it on my own. I was like, yeah, actually, I feel like I need somebody else to help me with this. And it just got easier. You just do it the one time, you fail forward, keep getting better.
Yep.
But I remember seeing a video of you, video or picture, I don't remember. And there was this massive whiteboard. Can you kind of explain the method to the madness of a whiteboard and like what was on there and like your goals?
Yeah, I missed that whiteboard. It's actually at my friend's house, like 20 minutes from here. But anyway, it is so important to see your goals at all times. If you don't see what you're doing, then you're running in the dark. Like, so I'm a huge believer in the whiteboard and like the wall sticky notes and the writing out your goals. So when I was going for 2-star, for example, all over the house in Mexico in my little shack, I was living in a shack, was 2-star, 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 I am 2-star, I am 2-star, I am 2-star, 20 cycles, 20 cycles, 20 cycles. And you have to see your goal. So if it's manager, director, executive, 5 cycles, 10 cycles, and then when you hit it, take down the sticky notes, put up some new ones. So it's reminding yourself, and what our brain does is when we're looking and focusing on something every single day, it'll conspire to make it happen, and that is all areas of life. And I've experienced the negative effects of that, and I've experienced the positive effects of that. So you've got to see the goals that you're working towards. And on a whiteboard, I will, have my executive tree, 5 names on this side, 5 names, or I would have 10 and 10 actually, because executive is the foundation. So I had 10 and 10, and I always saw it, and I always knew who was active. So I never fell out of executive, because it was almost a dopamine hit, knowing that, oh, I just made another consultant, I'm sticking them up there. And you know what I mean? So I also had a list of who I was bringing to the next event, because events are the highest paid skill in network marketing. If you're not going to an event, then I don't even know why you're doing this, because you can't grow this business by yourself. You grow by growing others. And I can't articulate my vision because it might not be the same as your vision, but people might, hear something as simple as a mom of 2 who gets to pay off their car payment every single month at an event, rather than this chick that travels the world. And it's going to land for them a lot harder when they're at the event, experiencing the culture of the community and seeing why this means so dear and true to all of our hearts. So I always had a list of who I'm bringing to the next event. Right now, I'm doing the crystal reset. If there's money on the table, grab it, you guys. I don't think I've never missed a crystal reset. But like, for example, I have I Am More, Dig Deeper, Crystal Reset, okay? And then for my next goal is Crystal Manager. And I wrote, I'm so happy and grateful now that I'm manager again, because I'm cycling. I prove I am great at this business. I could use the 450, and I'm one step closer to being back to paid as, and an extra $750 bonus for the extra consultants. I am running the ranks again. So don't forget about how, even a $400, what that could do for you. That's going to cover my student loans. Like, hello, So I'm always going back in time and speaking to myself like that. And it's important to go one step at a time, rather than, if I was like, I am focused on 5-star, my brain's going to find all the reasons why it's so complicated to get there, because it's such it's a vast goal. 4 to 5 is like insane.
4 to 5 is massive. And you also have, I would love for you to share, like, when you're prospecting, or what your list looks like, your prospect list looks like, and how you reach out. And then also, so share that. And then those people, your warm market, are gone. How are you grabbing and meeting new people? Tell us that.
Yeah, so I have built probably 85% of my business on Instagram stories, and I do that through attraction marketing. And just like how you were sharing earlier, Meredith, I really am an open book, and I share everything to a degree. And I believe there's so much power in vulnerability. And I'm reading this book called Daring Greatly, which is all about the power of vulnerability. And it builds trust with people. It builds relationships. It builds, common ground because everyone experiences things and nobody talks about it. So, showing up vulnerable and as yourself without the fear of any attachment to it, look at it as like your personal diary. It's going to attract people to you who, just naturally are going to trust you, which makes it easier to convert to enrollments. Okay. So what my income producing activities every day, how I work is on my stories. I'll interact with people all day, just like if that's like a heart face or, oh my gosh, that's so yummy. What restaurant is that? Or where do you buy that outfit? Blah, 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 all day. And that builds, it just builds engagement because I'm showing up for them and they like the interaction. My bubble is now going to be pushed to the front of like what they're watching, but it's also starting to build trust in a relationship with them, even if it's as simple as just like the clap emoji. So then when I'm actually, yeah, you can copy me. Of course, that's what I said. Copy me. I copy people, copy me. So yeah, I interact with people throughout the day. And it's powerful to show up as yourself. And the more you show up, the more people are going to know you're in business. If you're not posting shit, then chances are you're probably not going to get any enrollments, and chances are probably people don't know you're in business. Right? I've done such a good job personally, I think, because I've been so consistent, where now people do identify me with Isagenix. And if somebody wants to get healthier, make income, they know I'm the person to go to. So I'm always engaging with people, and I'll reach out to people on the stories, or if they even like my picture, I'll message them, hey, thanks so much for, the love on my post. I've never explored talking about emotions before. I hope you liked it. And don't expect somebody to write back to you, but we're just building relationships and rapport with people. And you have no idea how much you're probably relating to somebody as well. So, sharing value, sharing Isagenix as your lifestyle, not as what it is that you do, but as something that's a part of you. I think that's really powerful. So I'm always building my relationships that way, and with cold market people that follow me who I don't know. And guys, it's so not about who follows you and your following count. It's like literally irrelevant. The biggest income earners in Isagenix have like 200 followers on Instagram. Okay. It really has no correlation. It's just leverage. And if you're not actively building on Facebook and Instagram, that's crazy because it's leverage. I have built majority of my business that way just because that's how I learned how to do it, and because of traveling, but that's not the only way. I truly believe belly to belly is the most genuine, most effective way to build this business. So what I do when I'm out and about is, when people ask me, oh, how do you live in Bali? I'm like, oh, I work online. They ask me, well, what do you do? And I'll be like, well, why don't we just connect on Instagram, and I could just share a little bit more about it with you later. And I'm more present with them. I'm more in the moment, because I remember back in the day, whenever I would just, if somebody asked me what I did, I would be, I would just, this is what I do, join my business. Doesn't work. So, just, it's building connections, becoming a professional friend collector. So another example, I was staying at my friend Amanda's apartment in Baltimore, and one of her girlfriends came over to view the apartment. Now, I've never met this chick before, but I took the time to get to know her, and we were just chit-chatting, having girl talk. And I said, hey, it was so awesome meeting you. What's your Insta? I would love to just keep up with you. And now I'm talking to her about Isagenix right now, because I was able to go to her with a campaign. So it's all about leverage, okay? So building the relationships, showing up in people's lives, caring about other people. And then whenever you have a product campaign, a business campaign, like a February self-care situation, they're going to be more receptive to hear what you're doing because you've just been there, versus don't ever cold message somebody, join my business, or you should try my product, or anything like that. If you don't have any messages back and forth, chances are it's probably not a good idea to spam them, right? So just always come back to the basis of, yeah, this is a long game. It's a long game. It takes time. And I think we're so stuck in instant gratification that, oh, I need to send out a message, I'm going to get enrollment. But that's why it's so important to be consistent, because the more consistent you are, the more you're going to find people falling out of the sky.
Oh my gosh, I love it. You guys, if you have any questions, please start commenting, or any questions that you think people may want to know. But I want to know few things. So first, tell me how you cast vision to somebody who's just taking a look? So let's say they saw a video or whatever. How are you casting vision for them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think that's the most important part of all of this. And that's what's going to have somebody join your business, is all through the vision that you help them see. So it's all about asking questions. So if somebody is just like, I hate my job, I only get paid once a month, I'll ask, oh my gosh, once a month, that must be really hard. How do you deal with that? And they'll share with me. And I'm just asking, I'm more curious about their pain points. So I dig for the pain and I look for their passion. So let's say, well, it makes it really hard. I have to budget. Well, how does that make you feel? Oh, well, like it's stressful. And then I'll be like, oh, so you're a dance teacher. Is dance like your passion? You want to pursue that the rest of your life? No. Oh, well, what are some other things that you're passionate about? Oh, I'm passionate about helping people. Oh, like, whatever. This is just an example. So then most times than not, I'll kind of just let the conversation sit there. And I'll come back the next day and be like, hey, Sarah, I couldn't get you off of my mind when you said, you really have a passion for helping people and how stressful it is to only get paid once a month. If I could show you a way that you could bring in an extra, a few $100s a month to make that stress less for you, would you be open to taking a look? And then that's so like a day later typically is when, or hours later, hey, I couldn't stop thinking about you. If I could show you a way, would you? So it's like I let them share their vision with me. If I've been on the spectrum where I was just casting my vision, but that doesn't work because everyone sees life differently. So just asking questions about their pain points, what inspires them, what drives them, what are they passionate about, what is their family like? If they had more choice and flexibility, what would they be doing? If they didn't have to work so much, what would they be doing? And it's just asking questions, and that's painting the picture of them and getting their brains thinking about what they could possibly have with this. And when they're sitting in that pain, they're willing to make a change and actually take you serious on what you want to share.
Well, and I want to encourage the people on here who possibly they're not a 4-star and they're like, well, I can't do that because I just enrolled and I'm not even a consultant yet or whatever. So they don't have the money story. So did you share stuff like this even before you had a financial story?
I was sharing everybody else's. So the most powerful stories are the small ones. If I was posting, Jackson Parr makes 1.4 million a year, that's not relatable. But what is somebody making an extra $60 in that week, an extra $200 in that week. So I was borrowing income stories from the start page. I was borrowing them from other people that I saw. Even though I didn't physically create somebody who has made that income, I was still sharing it because it's the vision. It's painting the picture of what is possible, being a story collector. Yeah. And another thing that I did to get good and have the conviction and the posture that I have now is I had the courage. With the courage comes the confidence. With the confidence comes the posture. With the posture comes the conviction. And how you do that is three-way calls. Three-way calls. It's just a simple system, right? 1, make a list of people. 2, send out the invite that your sponsor helps you send. 3, connect them with your sponsor. And you're going to learn over time with all the failing forward and the conversations, what works, what doesn't, and you're going to pick up the verbiage in the process. But I think oftentimes when we overthink, a confused mind does nothing. So if we're sitting in this space of, oh, well, I don't know all of the science or how to articulate the business or even the compensation, how am I ever going to grow a team? You've just got to connect them with somebody else. Connect, leverage. This is the only profession that I know in the whole world where you're going to simultaneously earn money as you're learning. Hello.
I love it. You're just fire. So you make a list, you invite them, you connect them. And I know everybody now typically does a 3-way Zoom. So we want to see the people. We want to get to know, especially if they're on Instagram, you don't really know them. It's weird how people would get on video and not the phone. It's so funny how people are now, but Zooming, doing 3-way Zooms. Yeah. I mean, it's just.
I'm that. I will not answer a phone call. I'll only answer FaceTime, and I don't do any phone calls. Just my chances are my three-way call is going to be absolute SHIT if I do it like this. I have to see you. I have to connect with you.
Yes, it's just like a human thing. And I'm just gonna share right now, and I know Jocelyn can vouch for this, she's on here. Marco Polo is an awesome tool to build relationship. I'm not kidding you. Do you have that, Cameron?
No.
Let me tell you something. Like, if you have people in your life you haven't connected with in years, like high school, middle school, whatever, college friends, get on Marco Polo. I went through there and I was like, oh yeah, I have her number. And I just started sending messages, and they're video messages. And they have to see your face. And so it breaks down walls, you build relationships. It's so amazing. So I have since enrolled people from Marco Polo just from building relationship, but I encourage you to do that. I had another question for you though.
Yes.
How do you get people? So say that you just enrolled somebody, maybe she loves the product. How are we getting them to consultant?
Yeah, so I lead a lot with business, but if somebody is product related, I'll do both. So let's say somebody is using the products, I'll always ask them, or like whenever I'm breaking down the pack prices, I'll be like, also there's a way for you to get a full rebate. I call it the Eat for Free Club, but we could talk more about that later. So I plant the seed in like when I'm breaking down the packs. And then after they enroll and everything, I give it a little bit of time, like 30 minutes. And I ask them, curiously, I have found that statistically, people get better results when they have accountability in all things, in all areas in life. Who's one person in the whole wide world that you could think of that could probably benefit from something like this too? Or maybe somebody at work who is also stressed and need more energy. And I get them to think of one person. And then they're like, oh, my coworker Sue. Cool, awesome. Curiously, who's one person that means the absolute world to me that you see regularly, talk to regularly, that you think would also benefit from something like this, that you would love as an accountability partner or as support? Oh, my mom. I talk to my mom every day. Amazing. Jill, if you were to, invite Sue and your mom to do this with you, and I can help with what to say. You don't have to know what to say. I can help you. Would you be open to it? And you'll get nearly a full rebate. So I'll say it like that. Now, of course, not every person's going to convert to consultant, but it's a conversation I have with every single person. And they might not share right away, but they might share in a month. Or, they might share with one person, but it's a conversation I have with every single person. And then when it comes to the business, somebody comes on, and let's say I'm on a three-way call with a new person and their new person, and we want to get them a consultant. I'll ask them, and this is great, because I do believe that there's power in position. So I'll say, amazing, I'm so excited for you to get started. This is like the start of like the rest of your life, blah, blah, blah. Okay, who are the first two people that you can think of in the whole wide world that you care the most about? Who are the two people you care about the most in this entire world? Family or friend related? And most people are gonna say mom, dad, husband, sister, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, cool. The reason why I ask is because let's ask if they would be willing to support you. We wanna enroll them first, because they're going to be at the absolute best position in your business, and everything that you create from here on out is going to happen under them. And even though that makes absolute no utter sense to you right now, it's going to be such a gift. And think of it as like a savings account that you're building for them. And they're just going to have the absolute best position. So who are the two people that you care about the most? Let's put them there. So I like remove like the weirdness, of like, let's, share the product with somebody. Just who are two people that would support you, be your first two customers. And I let them focus on the two people that are going to support them or be willing to, get a few things or whatever. It doesn't even have, because I think we often forget, not everybody wants a full 30-day system either. So just sharing them that they can who are the two people that you love and care about the absolute most that you would want to support you and that you can gift this to.
Yeah, I love that. I love it, you guys. And it was like my best friend and my mom. The girl said the exact same thing to me. She said, who are 5 people in your life who you love the most? Name them. And I just named them. And she's like, okay, how can we get them started today? And I was like, it was weird to me. But then I sat with it for the day and I was like, I
How
called my
can
mom
we?
and my best friend.
Yes.
I just did it.
Yes.
I feel amazing. I feel amazing, and I want them to feel amazing. So on that same thing, I just kind of wanted to say, for you to touch on this, because I know this will like impact a lot of lives. Number one, let's just talk about comparison really quick, because you know that in Isogenics, you're going to see a lot of people making a lot of money. And some of it is just for that week, and it may not happen the next week. Okay. It's network marketing. Okay. So let's just talk about comparison and you being comparing yourself of other people's Instagrams and whatever. Let's just talk about it and how to guard your focus.
Yes, this is a great freaking topic. And I have a call on my next call soon, but this is something I really love to address because everyone experiences comparison, even platinums. Okay. So it's something that we all experience. It's human nature to, want to know the secret or to know what somebody else is doing or what's working for them, what's not working for you, but you've got to have blinders on. When I ranked advanced in my business that grew the most in the first year and a half, I didn't pay attention to anybody else other than myself, not a single other person. And something that I actually do still to this day is I still follow all of my friends, but I mute everybody's stories. I mute them all because if I'm seeing them every day and somebody makes, an insane week and I didn't, yeah, that's going to hurt, of course. And then, you're in a negative thought process, not negative thought pattern. So I still love and support my friends. It's not that I don't want to see what they're doing. It's just so I can focus on what I'm doing, at least for business. And then when I'm, so that's what I do is I'll mute my friends' stories in Isogenics so I can see all my prospect stories. Because, the more you watch, the more the bubble's going to be pushed up. So you just gotta be mindful about that. And that's how I eliminate comparison that way. I also started unfollowing different leaders that, I was comparing myself. It's not that I unfriend them, just so I don't see the content and so I'm not in a negative space. We all feel it. I compare, I'm sure Meredith does, remember that social media is a highlight reel and behind the scenes, it's hard work. Like I want to, shoot myself sometimes. I'm sure Meredith does. I'm sure you guys do. Like it's a process and you just got to trust the process and you just got to focus on what you're doing, not care about what anybody else is doing. And I can tell you this much is the more that you focus on you, the more your business is going to grow. The more you focus on, oh, I didn't hit this rank advancement. Oh, that person did it faster than me. Oh, I should be there by now. Then you're never going to get there. You never will. And, I caught myself in a wave of comparison a few months ago, and yeah, it destroyed my business. Okay. And just know that that's what happens when we aren't focused on who we can serve in ourselves. Like it's just, you've got to protect that energy and you're in the way that you think.
Yes, guard your focus like it's case of $1 million. I know Lynn Hagedorn says it all the time. So good. I know you've got to run, Cameron. I just so appreciate you and everything you gave us. We'll have to do this again for the start group. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You're amazing, and I'll let you go. See you later. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Bye.